You're in the CNN newsroom. I'm Jessica Dean in New York, and tonight questions over how Marco Rubio will juggle two major national security roles and what this means for America's international standing. And a major shakeup this week. The White House said Secretary of State Rubio would take over as acting national security advisor once Mike Waltz was ousted from his job. CNN has learned the White House is now sorting through the logistical questions about exactly how this is going to work. And on top of leading the State Department and serving as the president's top advisor on national security, Rubio is also acting administrator for USAID and acting archivist. These are full-time jobs as well. CNN White House reporter Elena Trine is following all of this. So, Elena, how is the White House expecting to sort through all of this logistically and make this work?
Well, those are questions, Jessica, that they are still trying to figure out. I mean, what was clear is Thursday morning, as a ton of media outlets, including CNN, were reporting that National Security Advisor Michael Waltz was soon going to be ousted. Behind the scenes, they were still trying to figure out who would actually serve as his replacement. I was told when I spoke to many people inside the White House that they did not know that they were going to name, or that the president was going to name Rubio as, the interim national security advisor once the president formally named Mike Waltz, the nominated him, I should say, as the new U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. And so, really, the question now is, how is this all going to work? How is Rubio going to juggle all of these roles, but specifically, of course, do his job as the Secretary of State while also the job of the National Security Advisor? We spoke with many people, including Brett McGurk. He's someone who served on a series of different national security councils, including most recently as former President Joe Biden's Middle East coordinator. And he essentially said that the national security job is the most important job in Washington, and that it's very different from the Secretary of State role. So, of course, you have that kind of existential question of how is this going to work on the broader foreign relations standpoint. But there's also simply logistical questions that the White House is still trying to sort. One is, of course, will Rubio move his office to the West Wing, where Waltz used to sit, just next to Vice President J.D. Vance and down the hall from Chief of Staff Susie Wiles in the Oval Office? Will he have to put off and really pass a lot of his portfolio to Christopher Landau at the State Department, his deputy? I mean, all of these things the White House is kind of scrambling to consider. And one thing, though, Jessica, is very much clear, is that they do believe that this role is going to be temporary. The president is searching to put someone in this role on a more permanent basis. Rubio has told people that he plans to stay for up to 6 months. But of course, my sources have cautioned that if the president believes he's doing a good job, he could very well ask him to stay on longer.
And I also want to ask